The Tough Princess by Martin Waddell. Illustrated by Patrick Benson. Once upon a time there lived a king and a queen who weren't very good at it. They kept losing wars and kingdoms and ended up living in a caravan parked beside a deep dark wood. The king is the one with the frying pan. The queen is the one with the hammer trying to fix the roof. One day the queen told the king that she was going to have a baby. "Have a boy," commanded the king. "He will grow up to be a hero, marry a rich princess, and restore all our good fortunes." "Good idea," said the queen. But when the baby came, it was a girl. "Never mind," said the king. "She will grow up to be a beautiful princess. I will annoy a bad fairy and get the princess into trouble. Then a handsome prince will rescue her, and we'll all go off and live in his castle." "Good thinking," said the queen. "We'll call her Rosamond." "Ah," said Rosamond. The princess grew up and up and up, until at last there wasn't room in the caravan to hold her. The king got her a tent and pitched it outside. "It is time you were married, Rosamond," the king told the princess on her 17th birthday. "Yes, Dad," said the princess, "but—" "I'll go off and arrange it," said the king. The king went off into the deep dark wood to annoy some bad fairies. The first fairy the king met was a good one. She didn't even get angry when the king called her names. The second fairy was bad, but she was only a beginner. She turned the king into a frog for making faces at her cat, but the spell wore off. The third fairy was very bad. Here she is. The king was very rude to her. "Aha!" cried the bad fairy. "What do you love most in the world?" "My daughter Rosamond," cried the king hopefully. "Then I will cast a spell on her," cackled the bad fairy, who wasn't very bright, and she darted off to do it. "Goody!" cried the king, because his get the princess, a rich prince plan was working. But the bad fairy came upon Princess Rosamond picking buttercups in a glade. "Ah!" she cried. "I am the bad fairy, come to cast a spell on you. 7 years shall you lie, till a prince comes riding by." Bop! Went Princess Rosamond, and she knocked the bad fairy out, bent her false teeth, and busted her glasses. "You rotten, ungrateful thing, Rosamond," said the queen, picking up the bad fairy. "I'll find my prince my own way," said Princess Rosamond. The next day she borrowed the king's bike and rode off to seek her prince. Rosamond had a lot of adventures. She slew dragons and great serpents and black knights. She rescued several princes who were quite rich, but she didn't like them, so she threw them back. She did all the things a heroine ought to do, but she didn't find her prince. Finally, Princess Rosamond grew tired of rescuing princes and killing dragons, and her front wheel buckled in a fight with a 100-headed thing. So she set off sadly for home, carrying her bicycle. "Hello, Mom. Hello, Dad. Bad Fairy," said Rosamond when she got home. "Where's your prince, then?" said the king and the queen and the Bad Fairy, who had moved in by this time. "Haven't got one," said Princess Rosamond. "I'm not going to marry a ninny." "What about us?" cried the king and the queen and the Bad Fairy. "What are we supposed to live on if you can't come up with a prince?" "That's your problem," said Princess Rosamond. "I'm not going to—" And then she saw the sign. "This way to the enchanted prince." "I'm doing this for me," said Rosamond firmly, and she set off in the deep, dark wood. "You can look after yourselves." She bashed up several goblins and ghouls and the odd fairy, including several good ones by mistake, and finally won her way through to the enchanted castle. There, on a flower-strewn bed in the castle, lay a beautiful prince. Rosamond gave him a big kiss. The beautiful prince opened his eyes, jumped to his feet, and put up his fists. Rosamond did too, but before their fists met, their eyes did. "What a prince!" she said. "What a princess!" he said. It was love at first look, so they biked off together on the buckled bike and lived happily ever after. The king and the queen lived happily ever after too, and the Bad Fairy got even worse. The end.